Hello and welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club, the place investors go to gain actionable advice, learn about current market trends, and hear war stories from other professional investors out there in the field today. Before we get started, I have two quick housekeeping items to cover. First, if you like the episode, we would very much appreciate a like, subscribe, and share. It is the best way to support the show and keep it running. Second, if you are a new investor looking to get started in real estate or an experienced investor looking to take your investing to the next level, we created an ebook for you that will cover how to find deals that are actually deals, how to finance those deals with little to no money down, and how to exit those deals for maximum value. On top of that, I throw in an insane amount of free bonuses that you'll have access to once you buy the ebook. All we charge is our admin cost to keep the show running. So, if you're serious about real estate investing and want to create both active and passive income as an investor, head on over to the website at therealestateinvestingclub.com and click on the button that says Get the ebook to grab yourself a copy today. So with that said, let's dive right in. Today we have a very special guest with us, ready to drop some investor knowledge on you. So buckle up, grab your pen and paper, and enjoy the ride. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. Today we have Chris Miles with us on the show. Chris is the cash flow expert and anti-financial advisor. He is a leading authority teaching entrepreneurs and professionals how to get their money working for them today. He is also an author and a podcast host at the Chris Miles Money Show and has been featured on U.S. News, CNN Money, EO Fire, with a proven reputation with his company Money Ripples to get his clients fast, life-altering financial results. I am super excited to have Chris here. Chris is very focused on helping people achieve that financial freedom, and real estate is one of the best ways to do that. So Chris, thank you for hopping on the show today. How are you?
Man, such a pleasure to be here, Gabe.
Awesome. So, we always start with stories on the Real Estate Investing Club. So why don't you take us back to the beginning? I know you've retired twice at the ripe age of 39. So how'd you get there? What was the story from point A to point B?
Yeah, so point A was screwing it up majorly, right? Not doing it right. So kind of like give you a background. So almost 20 years ago, I was wanting to become an entrepreneur, right? Because I want to control my destiny, my freedom, my time, my money. Like I want to have no limits, right? And I knew I couldn't do that doing a W-2 job. So my goal was to become a business consultant. But I thought, well, if I'm going to be a business consultant, shouldn't I have business experience? So I was like, all right, I should have real life business experience. So I started looking around to see what I could do as a business owner. And the first job or opportunity that came up to be a business owner, right, was to become a financial advisor. Now, I didn't know at the time that becoming a financial advisor was so easy. I thought, man, you had to like dress to the nines. You had to like interview and impress and everything you do like you do in a normal job interview. And I didn't realize if you had a heartbeat, you could pass a test, you become a financial advisor, right? So I did that, but I actually enjoyed working for myself. So I did that for 4 years. But during those 4 years, some of those things started to poke at me a little bit, right? Because I love evidence. I love to know that things work. Mm-hmm. And when I started to see over time that even people that had decades of advice from these guys, they weren't financially free, right? The clients weren't becoming financially free at all. And so I'm like, I'm teaching them about financial freedom. And hey, you put away $100 a month at 12% a year for the next 40 years, you have $1 million, all that kind of junk, right? And I started to realize that people weren't becoming free, that the market wasn't returning 12% at all. It was returning closer to maybe 7 or 8 if you're lucky. And on top of that, inflation's not really 2 or 3%. It's much higher, but the government lies to us so that they can keep Social Security costs of increases down, right? And all kind of stuff. So when I started to see the real numbers, I was like, well, maybe this isn't working. But again, my pocketbook was tied to it. So one day, it was at the end of 2005, there was a guy I trained to be a financial advisor. He went into real estate, right? And he went into with his dad. They partnered up, pulled their money together, started doing their deals. And I asked him like, hey, how are things doing? I'm expecting to hear him say, it's kind of slow, not getting off the ground. It was the exact opposite. In 4 months, he's like, my dad's doubled his income from being a professor at the local university. I'm
Nice.
like, full crap. That's too good to be true. If you guys ever heard that before, right? And he's like, no, man, it's working. And so we had this debate back and forth about, is it stocks or real estate? What's better? And finally, he stopped me. He said, Chris, how many of your clients are actually financially free? Like where they don't worry about money? I'm like, well, none, because if they watch CNN, they freak out because everybody that watches CNN can't live in abundance, right? He's like, well, okay, great job, Chris. Well, how about this? How many of you guys, as financial advisors, are financially free, not off the commissions you're earning, but actually doing the investments you're recommending? And I thought about it. I'm like, well, none. I don't think any of them are actually retired. I thought one guy was, but I found out later when he got fired, he was scrambling for money. He wasn't either. He just had all the appearance, right? He had, as they say in Texas, all hat and no cattle, right? And so it blew my mind. I was like, all right, I get it. So what's the answer? He's like, I'm not going to tell you the answer because you're not even open to it. I'm like, dude, you've got me to admit that financial advising sucks. Okay, so what is it? And so he started to kind of get me down that path of cash flow and real estate investing and things like that. Things, even hard money lending at the time. And I was like, what? Like, this is possible. And my mindset shifted, right? Because it went from the accumulation mentality, right? Because we're taught to scrimp, save, suffer, spend nothing, just suck your entire life away. Hopefully that someday you might have something, right? That's kind of the whole financial planning model. It's like, hey, I hope someday to live on, they say 4%, but that's a bullcrap number. It's more like 2 or 3, right? So my goal is save up $2 million, live on 3%. And I could live a whopping lifestyle of $60,000 a year, which today is like a joke, it's you barely survive on that, So I was like, okay, that's not great. And but when he switched it to say, hey, it's about cash flow, what's the actual income that's coming in from these deals? It blew my mind when I realized, wait, I can make 12+%. And they were doing active real estate investing, right? I'm more of a passive investor myself, but they were doing active stuff. They're like, yeah, if I can make 30% a year, why not? And I hope to make 30% a year on just my total, real estate deal with growth and appreciation and everything, So when they were doing that, I'm like, that just blows the numbers out of the water. Like, why would anybody do financial planning? So I quit and started doing more what they did. I also started to learn about residual income and just cash flow and stuff. And by the time I hit the summer of 2006, I was able to retire the first time. Now, I didn't do it right, though. That's the thing, is that, again, I was gambling on appreciation in the marketplace. That's the one big mistake I made in real estate. Was it was always about, well, hey, 2006, things are booming. Man, if I buy $100,000 property, goes up 10%, I make $10,000. But if I buy a $500,000 property and it grows 10%, then I make $50,000. So let's go big or go home, right? And I basically
famous last words, right?
That's right. Recession hit, and I started going home. I went from millionaire to upside down millionaire. Was about $16,000 in the hole each month. Was over $1 million in debt eventually, and had to sell off just about everything. Avoided bankruptcy, but I had to dig out of that $1 million debt hole, and was able to do it the second time, get out of the rat race the second time by end of 2016.
Awesome, man. I mean, I love stories like yours. I don't ever want people to go through heartache. But I mean, I love it when I hear people who learned that, the way that they were doing things wasn't going to work. They busted their ass, they got to the top of the mountain, and then they crashed right back down. And you had to go back through the whole thing again. Because it just shows people, so many people have so much fear when it comes to, creating wealth, creating a life, something that they can rely on. And they're just afraid of losing it once they have it. And so, hearing a story like yours where you went to the top and then back down and then up again just shows that, you're never down for permanently. You're never on the floor. You can always dig yourself back out. So I love how that ended. 2008, that was a hard time for anybody. So you were not the only one, for sure.
No,
but that's great. So yeah, your real message, it sounds like, is you want people to understand that, the stock market, W-2s, that is not the way to financial freedom.
That's right.
That's not the way that you can, reach that type of freedom that you're looking for. And so real estate is one of the best ways, in your opinion, to get there, to experience this. You also mentioned that you do passive income. So kind of take us to that. Most of the people that come on the show, they are active investors. So they buy properties and flip them, and whatever their model is, they're active investors, but you're more on the passive side. So take us to that. What is passive investing in real estate?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, there's no such thing as passive investing, right? There's always some sort of management, stewardship, something going on, right? Where it's not like you get something for nothing. But when I talk about that, I use the general term, like I'm talking about, having long-term rentals, right? It could, it could be short-term rentals too, actually. It could be Airbnb, even though that's a little bit more active on the active side, that's more of a business. But
Right.
passive is usually something where either one, you've got like turnkey rentals, which is my personal favorite, right? Where you don't manage them at all. You have to buy it. That's the work you have to do. But then after that, you're hands off. It could also be investing in funds. It could be investing in syndications, right? Or short-term lending or long-term lending. It's doing those kind of things that really you're more hands off as a busy professional. And I'll say this, like I'm in a mastermind group with some of the top wholesalers and flippers in the country, and most of them, even to be in the group, have to do a minimum of 100 deals a year. And it's fascinating because I would say 80% of them are not financially free.
Mm.
Now, transactionally, they're very wealthy. They're making millions and millions of dollars, right?
Wholesaling is rough for sure.
Oh yeah, especially on the wholesaling side, like it's a legit business, and I think a lot of them realized. I mean, a lot of them get out there and they will let their hair down a little bit and they get wasted for a couple of days just to get rid of the stress so they can go back to work hungover, right? But it's true, like it's a great business. You can make millions and millions of dollars, and you can have a lifestyle. But if that shuts down, you're toast, right? You're just like every other Joe Schmo out there, and so. What I love seeing is when you get those investors that say, hey, yeah, I'm doing my deals, but I'm also doing these deals on the side. I'm not just putting everything back in to just keep turning money. I'm actually turning around and saying, hey, let's get some cash flow coming in, passive income. So if this business shuts down, if the government says, hey, we don't like wholesaling anymore in this state or the country nationwide, we can turn around and either we can pivot our business, or two, we can just know, hey, rest assured, I've got enough money coming in. Doesn't matter what happens, I'm okay, right? And that's the place I really want everybody to get to, whether you're an active investor or you're full-time, working a job and you're trying to do this as a side hustle. Like either way, you should be getting passive income on the side that allows you to be free. And the crazy thing is this, when you're free financially, when you don't need the money, even through wholesaling or flipping, right? The amazing thing is that's when everybody starts saying yes to you. That's when everything in business becomes easier. It's when you were starving for the deal. That's when you can't find the deal, right?
It's so frustrating, right? Like when you need something like that, it just the neediness comes through your whole aura and it kind of pushes the deal away. But once you're set, then things just kind of come to you because you're not showing that sense of neediness.
That's right. I call it business breath, right? Where you just reek of it and people can smell it from a mile away and they don't quite get it, but just say like, I don't know, that person, that guy or that woman, I get a weird feeling from them. I'm not sure if that's the person I want to do business with,
Yep, for sure. And I think every mentor that I've ever had in real estate, they always said that they wish they had kept more real estate than turned it, because real estate really is. I mean, I don't know every business out there, but from what I've experienced, real estate is one of the best businesses in terms of cash flow, especially
for sure
if you're looking at large multifamily or mobile home parks like we do.
Yeah.
So not everybody has the money to buy assets and, experience that type of cash flow. What I know that you kind of help people find the money in their own, day-to-day life. How do you go about kind of coaching people to do that?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of times the resources are all there, right? I talk about the 3 gets. It's get lean, get liquid, and get out, right? Because everybody's in different situations, but I often find, especially with the way the real estate market is going, we've got equity in our homes. Are we using that equity? Are we getting the liquidity? Are we getting the money out of there? Are we getting liquid where we have cash? Because I'll tell you, we're not even close to a place where the market's going to just go do some crazy stuff, right? I mean, I know the time is coming, but it's not now. Like when I hear normal people say, "Oh, real estate, I think it's at an all-time high. I think it's a little risky." I'm like, have you seen the stock market lately? The stock market is 249% overvalued. Like it should be, the stock market should really be about 30% of where it is now. Like that is a crash waiting to happen. That is a bubble, Yep. But stock market, not even close. Like we can't even get enough inventory right now, So when I hear people say that, I was like, that's bull. But really like getting that cash, if you got equity, let's get that money out. Let's get it working for you, right? Do you have money sitting in brokerage accounts or with stupid stock market or Bitcoin even, right? There's another bubble coming, right? I mean, I actually think Bitcoin could go higher, but I also know that Bitcoin could it's just trashed, right? Because all you need is a
Yeah.
few governments to step in, and they will destroy Bitcoin with, they'll try to come up with their own digital currency. They'll do whatever they can to ban it, and it won't totally go away. I get that, but it's not, you just cannot be right. Here's when it's a bad thing to invest in, is when your average Joe neighbor or your high school classmate that was a moron says, "Hey, who wants to go and buy Bitcoin with me?" Or, "Hey, who wants to buy these stocks?" Or, "I'm making all this money right now." And then you have celebrities out there, rappers saying like, "Hey, I'll teach you how to trade stocks." Okay, this is when there's a bubble, when celebrities are all thinking that they know how to make money, right? And your average Joe high schooler does too. And so, that's the kind of stuff. Like, if you got money there, you might want to get out. You might want to get that money out now while dumb money's going in. Like, they've driven the prices up. Cool. Can I pull it out and start, using it now in things that are more steady? They're not as sexy. And that's the thing I learned from the second time of being in the rat race, right? And trying to get out of it again. I realized that like boring investments are the sexiest investments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things that just pay stable, steady cash flow. And trust me, nobody brags on social media. It's like, woohoo, I bought a rental. It's making me $300 or $400 a month cash flow, right? Or whatever. It's like, nobody talks about that. But that to me is the sexiest thing. The whole thing, like, "Hey, I've been 100%, I've doubled my net worth in the last year." No one gives a crap, because when that stuff comes crashing down, you're going to say, "Now my net worth's cut in a third," So that's kind of my point there, is that, you really do want to have those stable assets there. Find the money that's there. Often trying to save money in taxes. What kinds of tax strategies can we do there? Obviously, if you're a real estate professional, you should not be paying any taxes, really, right? Things like that. Other things like, do we want debt or not? Can we restructure it to make it awesome? I had a guy where he's down in California. He had one investment property and he had his home, and that's pretty much all he was at so far. But his goal was just to pay it off. So he wanted full cash flow. After it was paid off, he would free up about $4,500 a month. But with all the equity that was in there, of course, it's the West Coast. This, like, everything on the West is like, dude, we got to just sell it. Like, get rid of it. Go invest out east. Go like to Charleston, where you just came from, or somewhere in that direction. Where you can actually make cash flow. And so I was like, dude, if you sell your property, this duplex you've got here in California, you refinance your house, you have about 900,000, almost $1 million you can use. And
go buy a multifamily outright in Cleveland. I mean, come on.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. Cleveland, Southern PA, or wherever, Southeast is great. I love Southeast personally, but wherever it is, right? Like, those got amazing cash on cash returns. It's like, you can go put money there, and he seriously could be making about $75,000 a year this year. That's about $6,000 a month, versus in 6 years paying off that debt to only free up $4,500 a month, right? And of course, if he keeps reinvesting that 75 grand, which I call it the income snowball, right? Because it keeps growing every year, he'll be well over 100,000 a year in 5 years, versus hoping to have maybe 50,000 a year just from not paying on that debt. And so that's the thing, is like, getting that return on equity, getting that money moving and working for you. That's the key.
Perfect. I love it. Return on equity. One of my favorite phrases. So to recap, in the find the money section, you said get lean, get liquid, and get out. So you really are looking at the income that a person is producing, getting it as lean as possible, getting it liquid. So getting out of the stock markets, especially ones that are overvalued, but that's always hard to identify, and then get out, like put it into real estate. Does that sum it up pretty well?
Yeah. I would definitely add on the get lean part is, don't be cheap. Like, I don't mean you live in a cardboard box, you go all Dave Ramsey on us, because we don't want Dave Ramsey crap, that's not a free life, But we do want you to be a wise steward of your money, right? I mean, the COVID situation was awesome, because it really got us to really refine of, like, first off, like, am I just blowing money, right? Is this really what I want? Do I have the right people on my team, or do I need to cut them and let them go? And some of them just let themselves go, which is great, So really, like, getting lean in your business, getting lean at home, but again, not that to the expense of not enjoying life. Like, you can still have that latte or whatever. You can still, you can still go on vacations. Like, we do that all the time, but that's the thing, is like, we free up that cash so we can do more of those things.
Yep. It always reminds me of that Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where he talks about how the money should be going into your investments, and then use that money to support your lifestyle. It's a really great model. Awesome. Well, hey, Chris, we have already blown through our 20 minutes, so I got to push us into the quick question round. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Always starts out with books. I'm a big bookie. I just took Rich Dad Poor Dad, so you can't give that recommendation. But give me 2 book recommendations, one for real estate and then one for general life wisdom. Before we continue on with today's guest, I want to tell you guys about a community I'm launching on School to help investors like yourself grow your own portfolio. In this community, you'll get access to all the docs I use, all the systems I've built, everything I've used to grow my own portfolio, as well as instructions and guidance on how to get out there and find great deals, how to finance those deals, and then how to manage them for great returns. Since we're just launching it, the price will be set at a measly $20 per month, and whatever price you join at is the price you'll have for life. We will be increasing the price as the group grows, so if you're at all interested in growing your portfolio along other investors, now is the time to join. I will put the link somewhere in the bio or on our podcast website at therealestateinvestingclub.com, so if you are interested, head on over there. With that said, let's get back to the podcast.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention Rich Dad Poor Dad. Actually, that one, and not because it's brilliant, because they don't give you squat. I would add the cash flow quadrant, right? Mm-hmm. Because that does support what I was talking about, where sometimes you try to become a business owner in the wholesale or the flipping side, but then you find out you're actually more of an employee of your own mm-hmm. business. Like really moving into that free space, in the B or the I quadrants, right? And I think you should be both. I think you should be a business owner and an investor too. So I would say that's my favorite book, for at least for getting your mind wrapped around the business of real estate, right? The second book I would recommend that's non-real estate related, I'm going to go with my friend Mike Michalowicz. Have you ever heard of him? He does a book called Profit First. If you haven't read that book, I would start there. Profit First is an awesome book. Really supports around like getting free, right? Like where you try to figure out what kind of cash flow gets you, the money you want. What kind of profits do you need in your business to pay you the life that you want, right? I would add though, if you have read that book, go to his other book, which is called The Pumpkin Plan. That one is what actually got me retired the second time, right? Because in The Pumpkin Plan, he really talks about, especially in business, right? Honing in on just the very best activities. It's like the Pareto principle, but as I like to say, I like to Pareto the crap out of the Pareto principle, right? The 80-20 principle. I like to find what's the top 20% of the top 20%, which is the top 4% that drives 96% of your business or revenue. And that's what I end up doing in my business, generated some more residual streams there, as well as some passive streams to add to it, which really got me out of the rat race much faster than the path I was on before. So I love The Pumpkin Plan. If you're looking to really hone things in business, and he's got lots of great books, but that's one of my favorites right there.
Perfect. So Cash Flow Quadrant, Profit First, and Pumpkin Plan. I don't think I've read any of those actually, so I'll have to pick them up. Going on to the next question, and this one is an opportunity for you to kind of flex your muscles and brag a little bit. What is the one thing that you feel is your biggest strength?
My biggest strength is really just getting resourceful, right? Like having to dig out of that situation when I was in such a big hole. I mean, that was hard to do, Yep. But that's the very thing, like my whole business has gotten based off of, right? Like, I don't have to work, but I have that passion. Like I want to teach. I love teaching. And I also love finding a resource, like finding, ways to get resourceful to figure out, hey, how can we take something and make it bigger? How to get the max ROI out of whatever I'm doing, right? And so I think that's kind of my superpower is getting creative, getting resourceful. Heck, I even figured out how to get infinite banking, life insurance stuff to actually work for, investors now, where before I was like, dude, that's a ripoff, like, that kind of stuff, like just getting really resourceful and creative to make it work. That's kind of my superpower.
Awesome. No, I love it. Resourcefulness is one of the most important skills to have, especially in real estate, because things never go as you plan them. You got to be resourceful.
Yep.
All right. Moving on. Next question. This one's for your younger self. So if you could go back to the Chris who was pre first crash, you just getting into financial planning, still had the rosy glasses on, go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
I would say, look for the evidence, look for the evidence, find people that actually been there, done that, and still doing it that day. Because man, in that financial advisor office, I thought someone who was making $300,000 a year, which is the top guy in the office, was rich, right? And now I'm like, dude, I can make almost that in a month, So It's amazing that perspective, but I was like, that guy's amazing. But if I would have been more open instead of being so narrowly minded, I'd be like, hey, who else is doing stuff out there? What are amazing things that they're doing? I probably would have been led to the same place. And I'm grateful for my path, but just tell the younger self, be open, be humble, and really look to people that are actually doing the things that you're trying to create.
Perfect. I love it. And now this one's for everybody who is listening and watching. You've given us a lot of wisdom so far. So if you could just pull out one action step from everything that you've said, somebody who wants to, start down the path of financial freedom, what is that one step that they could take?
Yeah, I would start looking at your money. One, track it. Track your income and your expenses, both sides, right? For both personal and business. And then from there, ask yourself, how much of this is passive income, right? How much of this is not relying upon me to be hustling and do all the work? And that, I think, is the first step. Just awaken to that. If you know that, then you know what your next step is. If it's, hey, I'm good, you're good. Maybe it's just building a legacy, but it might be, I need to build my freaking portfolio, right?
Makes sense. Awesome. And so this is the final question. It's for everybody who's listening and watching. Again, you've given us great things to think about. So I'm sure people want to reach out, say hi. What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, you can go to my website, moneyripples.com. You can always check that out. And you can also check out my podcast you mentioned earlier, the Chris Miles Money Show. So I've got lots of great topics on there and good stuff that really is all focused around creating that passive income and that freedom so that you can live your dream life now.
Perfect. That's moneyripples.com. I will put that URL in the show notes. So if you guys are listening or watching, just click the little more in the description. That'll pop down the full description. And in there, you can find Chris's URL, moneyripples.com. So check that out. And again, Chris, thank you for hopping on the show.
Such a pleasure, Gabe.
All right. For everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason that we do this. So we appreciate having you here. Other than that, hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode and were able to pull some actionable advice that you can go home with and apply to your own investing business. Before you go, I have a gift for you. If you're a new investor looking to get started or an established investor looking to take your business to the next level, I've created an ebook just for you available on the website. This ebook will cover how I was able to create both active and passive income in real estate with very little money to start with. In it, I will address the 3 most often cited obstacles new and veteran investors run into by showing you how to find a deal that's actually a deal, how to finance that deal with little to no money down, and how to exit a deal for maximum value. And if you get the ebook today, I'm going to bury you in bonuses, 7 of them to be exact. First, you'll get the off-market lead generation blueprint, which will take you through the exact systems and processes we use to generate off-market leads like clockwork, which is the most important skill when it comes to creating real wealth in real estate. Then you'll get the A to Z REI systems and vendors guide, which will allow you to peek under the hood of our business and see the exact tools and systems and even the vendors we use to grow our business. After that, you will get the top 100 best performing keywords pack, which will give you the exact keywords we use to target leads online and generate leads without having to lift a finger. Next, you'll get the contracts bundle for wholesaling and renting real estate, which will give you access to all of the contracts we use in the field to execute all types of transactions. After that, you'll get the Investor's Quick Analysis Calculator and Offer Tool, which will allow you to quickly calculate whether a deal is an actual deal and will allow you to create an offer automagically from those calculations. Next up, we'll give you the Investor's Daily Success Tracker, which is a tracker you can use to ensure you are taking the right actions day in and day out to reach your financial goals in real estate. And finally, you will get the Wholesaler's Template for Quick Assignment Cash, which will give you the templates we use to present our wholesale deals professionally and efficiently to our buyers. I know that is a ton of things to say. I'm glad you were able to stick with it. So you'll get both the ebook and all of those 7 free bonuses when you download the ebook today. All we charge is the admin cost to run the show. So if you are interested in the ebook and the bonus bundle, head on over to the website at therealestateinvestingclub.com. Click on Get the Ebook Bundle at the top of the page and take advantage of that deal. With that housekeeping item covered, I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day and even better week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. All right, before I officially sign off, I have a quick announcement to make. If you're interested in becoming a passive investor in one of my deals, my own company, Kaizen Properties, is looking for capital partners for our upcoming projects. We invest in what are known as recession-resistant assets, mainly self-storage facilities, mobile home and RV parks, and industrial properties. If you're interested in investing and would like to learn a little bit more about my company, our investing criteria, and some of the previous projects we've done, go to the Real Estate Investing Club podcast at therealestateinvestingclub.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. Click on the Invest With Us button. That'll pop up the investor form. Fill that out, and we will reach back out to you as soon as we can. Or if you prefer a little bit more of a personal touch, you can reach out to me at gabe@therealestateinvestingclub.com. So really, that is it. Again, it was a pleasure hanging out with you guys during this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.